in our panel. So I'm joined with Kristie Doak. She is the Senior Manager of Database Marketing and PGA Tour. Jim Parsons, he's the Field Marketing Executive at UPS. And Linda Yu is the Director of Outbound Marketing at Willow. And Linda, did I say your last name correctly?
You said my last name correctly, but I'm at Zillow.
At Zillow, I'm sorry, what did I say you were?
Willow, which is one of my favorite movies. But that's a different
when I
story.
said your name and then I thought, okay, well, I made one mistake. I knew I did something. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being a part of this. We really appreciate it. So, I mean, as you know, we've been hearing about, just to get started with this, what was your initial response? I mean, when this crisis happened, email went from being, you know, it was a main channel, but it became, in some cases, the only channel, or really it had to be coordinated with every other channel in some way. So, Linda, let's start with you. What was your initial response when the crisis hit?
Yeah, I think when the crisis first hit, the initial response was we noticed that there was just a ton of hunger from our consumers for more information, and so we just tried to provide that to them through a lot of new content that was more COVID related in terms of what were we doing to keep people safe, what can people still do, if they wanted to tour a home, how would they do that? So it was a lot of newsletter related email content driving to a COVID related landing page. So we started with that, but it evolved as the pandemic went on later into different stages.
Right. And now, Kristie, how about yourself?
Yeah, we started out in a little bit of a chaotic state to begin with because we were in the middle of one of our signature tournaments and had to quickly decide we weren't going to continue playing that weekend. So our first email out was the following, or actually I think it was late that week, and it was more information on how we were going to revise the schedule, which unfortunately had to be changed again because the schedule changed again. But from there, we moved more towards providing contact with our fans every week. If you know, we weren't playing golf, but there were replays that were running on TV and different human interest content that we had that we could share. So we tried to reach out weekly for about, I believe, about 8 weeks or so.
Right. And for Jim, I know with you, it was just everything really changed in terms of business, who you predominantly your business was, seemed to no longer be available. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, we responded to customers in kind of 3 different ways, if you will. One was kind of, as you alluded to, an even greater focus on listening to and identifying some of our customer needs, and particularly providing even more support and consultative services to the small to medium-sized business customers. They were impacted most significantly by this whole coronavirus and pandemic event, much more so than a lot of the enterprise environments. And the third thing we kind of did is we ramped up a focus on providing e-commerce services and platform development for our customers. All 3 of these things kind of combined to help out. You know, one thing kind of from a different perspective, though, is I think in general in the industry, there was too heavy of a focus on email for a period of time. And that actually kind of created a little bit of pushback. I remember reading a number of quite funny references that came out in the form of tweets talking about how if they get one more email from their favorite brand, they were going to do this or this or this.
Well, that's sort of, not to interrupt, but that actually it goes back to Catherine's video. What they did is, you know, from who was it? James? Which talk show hosted the? I forget.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel, thank you. I mixed them all up. But anyway, it goes back to that. And it also sort of, that's a great segue for our poll question. Jeff, if you could put the poll up, because this is actually what we were posing to all of you, and Linda actually came up with this one, is about your unsub rates and, you know, what happened with that. And for me to know, I need to put on my glasses because I'm blind. And well, no one was in a complete panic, really, just about 1%. So 70% didn't increase. Unsub rate did not increase. And then as far as for those who did, they really weren't worried or maybe a little anxious, but that's about it. So not a big response there with Linda. It's a little different than what you experienced, or even people you were able to talk to, how they experienced. Can you tell us about that?
You know, I think, actually, I think that this might have originally been Kristie's question.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was, but we then talked about it all. So
yeah, we did. On the Zillow side, we actually did not see a huge increase in unsub rates, and I think a lot of that was due to us just being very careful about how the volume of email that we were sending. We try to be very targeted with our email sends, and really using our social listening tools to gauge just overall sentiment with the brand and what kind of information they were receiving and what kind of content that they wanted. So it wasn't that big of an issue for us at Zillow, but I know, you know, for other brands, it probably just changed based on the product and the specific like program that you were managing and the customers that you have.
Well, so Kristie, then it was you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I didn't give you
That's
your
okay.
credit where it was due. And you had talked about how maybe the people you were losing, really, it didn't really matter so much that you were losing them.
Right. I think metrics were being looked at by new eyes in our organization, and where we did increase slightly, we had a spike and then we kind of tapered right back off again. But it caused some panic and some heartburn for them. But then when they realized that a lot of people, like we discussed yesterday, myself included, you had time to actually look at your inbox and say, you know what, I get this email from brand XYZ every week. I never open it. I never read it. Why am I still on this list? Let's just unsubscribe. So it did help shed a lot of dead wood basically on the file. And we do a program. When you unsubscribe, obviously you are unsubscribed. If you are not engaging with us, not opening or clicking, but haven't unsubscribed, then we try to tailor messages to you to try and get you back activated with the brand, kind of thing. So it was a, you know, momentary panic that, you know, we talked through a little bit, talked them off the ledge.
Well, no, and I think that's, you know, and again, the fact that it gives you an opportunity then for anyone who did deal with these type of declines, which obviously not too many of our attendees here, but it gives you an opportunity to find people in different ways, which is nice, you know, a nice opportunity. Moving on from that, Jim, let me go to you first. Now, as I talked about, consumer behavior started to evolve. So you guys needed to evolve with that and sort of take it along. So you basically, what were their needs as you move forward? Tell us about that, how you went from that initial reaction to, okay, now this is what they're looking for, what our customers want.
That's a great question. You know, we'd already started seeing some changing needs and priorities from many of UPS's B2B customers prior to receiving the stay-at-home orders. But the pandemic really has only heightened the need for I think, in general, marketing departments as well as UPS to transform and operate differently to meet these new business realities. So one of the things that we found and we understood as we really focused on listening to the customer and their needs was that they're encountering a lot of heightened competition from new entrants to many of their markets. And so whatever messaging we did, particularly as we tried to reach out to the SMB space, needed to take that in count. Then secondarily, another trend that we kind of saw and fell along with this is something that we're calling at UPS the new digital imperative, in that more and more business is being done digitally. And as such, if you will, the victors will be the companies that use prescriptive and predictive analytics to tie all of their marketing components in together. It really became, I know we're talking about how this is an email focus, but it really, I think, enhanced the whole omni-channel experience over time. Once we realized and were sensitive to customer needs, we kind of moved along that pendulum and tried some campaigns. In fact, do you want me to share a little bit of one that I thought was a pretty effective campaign? I know you and I talked about it a little bit, Lisa.
Quickly, yeah.
Yep, we'll do it very briefly. But what we saw, and we started a campaign that we referred kind of to as "Thanks for Delivering," and it would really involve designating not only to thank our own frontline workers, but all who were out there delivering every day. And so we designed this to be more than a campaign about UPS. a movement really designed to thank everyone for what they're doing. It involved everything from obviously a lot of digital communication, you know, and it was, and we kind of highlighted it based upon thank yous that, you know, we'd received from customers and notes to UPS about continuing to work with things. You know, hopefully some of the people on this panel, listening to this panel today, remember or have seen people leaving stuff out on the porch for their UPS driver or their FedEx driver or whoever, right? And giving gifts to public servants or to hospital care workers and things like that. It's just been a phenomenal, if you will, awakening about the importance of personalization and everything else. So we saw some great responses from this.
That's definitely, I think, a campaign that all of us remember seeing. And I know, Linda, for yourself, you guys sort of realized there was other opportunities to help your consumers or your customers in their journey through all of it. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I think from the initial onset, when there was just general panic about what was happening, we quickly saw that shift in our consumer sentiment to people still very much wanting to make progress in their home transaction, but feeling very uncertain and also anxious about how to do that. So the message that we really leaned into and the strategy that we really leaned into was to provide people with a sense of safety and security, and how I think people were generally very concerned about being in physical contact, whether it was touring a home or meeting an agent, etc. And so we gave them options of how to make progress in that home transaction through other ways, whether it was like a virtual tour. We really leaned very heavily into like digital options. The other thing that I would say is uncertainty also arose from like just how you're doing from a financial standpoint. And some people were losing their jobs or maybe not feeling very certain about their financial outlook. And so we saw an opportunity to just showcase more the breadth of our product offering, and mortgage was one of those spaces in helping people refinance their mortgage if they were homeowners. And that brought a lot of, I think that was an area that people really were leaning into, is how do you lower your mortgage payment, or maybe take out an equity loan to help save and provide a little bit of a nest egg in these uncertain times. So we quickly shifted from just COVID-related content to more options that you have to make progress in your journey.
Right, and Kristie, I know you guys, obviously everything was canceled, so you had to shift. Normally your focus is selling tickets. So tell us about where you had to shift and get what type of messaging you had to turn out at that point.
Right. So for tournaments individually, they had to reach out to their constituents in their market and let them know how to refund or what their options were as far as tickets were concerned. Now that we've started back to play, but we don't have fans on site, I've been helping tournaments that have purchased their tournament merchandise a long time ago and don't have people on grounds to purchase that. I've helped them craft messages out and get the merchandise that's available online in front of people. So even though they can't necessarily go to their favorite tournament or their local tournament, they can buy a shirt and watch on TV or whatever. So we've been working through that. And we really, after we did the necessary messaging on scheduling changes, but then our messaging really focused more on kind of human interest and some different options that we were offering. We had a video game challenge that players themselves were doing. We had a Get Active challenge where, you know, we were asking fans to join in and raise money for COVID relief and also work out virtually with your favorite player type thing. And we really found that while we did have that little spike of unsubs, we did have much better engagement rates. I would say our open rates bumped up by probably close to 3.5%. And our click-through rates were probably they probably just about doubled kind of thing. So it definitely helped kind of see another side of the golf of the golf world kind of thing.
And what did you learn in terms of, obviously, sort of holding on to that human interest messaging? Is that something that you feel like you want to move forward with, that would be benefit to continue with as we get out of the crisis?
Definitely. I think it's going to have to be a balance between tournament action and we have a large group of fans that play fantasy golf. So it's going to be a balance between the action, the leaderboard, your favorite player, human interest kind of thing. But I think our fans have always looked for human interest, and we would give it to them in fits and spurts here and there where we had something. Now we're more actively looking for those human interest stories so that we can share them.
And before moving, I wanted, because you had mentioned internally you had to make some changes in order to make that happen. Talk about that a little bit.
Correct. So collaboration is a great word until you get way too many cooks in the kitchen, and working on emails up until the very last minute when it needs to go out, and having everyone have a say in what's included in it became a little bit of a challenge. So after a couple weeks of long, late nights, everyone kind of said, hey, we need to kind of pump the brakes a little bit and figure out who actually needs to be involved in content creation, and then who actually needs to be involved in approving the final product before it goes out the door. Because literally everyone is working from home, understandably. Everyone has their own situation at home they're dealing with. But there were nights that I was on the computer until about midnight or so waiting for everyone to make their approval so we could get things scheduled. So we are still working more on that collaborative lane, because content of certain emails can match content that's on the website, which is always good. But we're learning how to do it efficiently, more efficiently kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are learning, as you said, people have become more collaborative because it's been a need at this point, but right. There's maybe there's always a little bit too much of a good thing.
There can be a little too much collaboration, I will say.
And I want to turn that to you, because getting into personalization and really moving forward with what you've found as far as, kind of finding all these other vehicles that your consumers or your customers are looking for. How are you planning to move? What are you going to take with you as hopefully we move past this crisis very soon?
Lisa, you cut out for a second. Was that a question for me?
I'm sorry. Just how are you going to move forward what did you learn? What are the things that you've taken with you now through the crisis that are things you want to continue doing?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we realized through the last several months is that there is power in giving people options, and especially when people in buying and selling a home, it's already a really stressful time for them. And not knowing how to do it during a pandemic is a very stark reality for people. And so giving people options, I think in doing that, we've leaned into the power of the breadth of the products that we have. So rather than doing targeted and more siloed communications about, if you want to buy a home, here are the things that you need to know. It's really showing the entire breadth of options that we have around buying, renting, selling, mortgages, and our suite of virtual products as well. So that's one. And the second, I think, would be we really built new muscle on how to work in a more integrated way. So to Kristie's point about you really need to figure out how to do that to make it like a seamless and a powerful experience for you. But in particular, I think email and other marketing channels, we figured out how to work with our sales teams in lockstep at a local level to amplify our go-to-market messages, especially for a product like Zillow Offers, where we had shut down a lot of our markets and then had to relaunch a lot of our markets. How do we talk to those sellers and in a very targeted, specific way? So that is a new muscle that I think we're going to carry forward into the future. And then I think the last thing for us is really making sure and asking ourselves if we're being genuine or authentic. Sometimes as a crisis is unfolding, your first response is to reach out and send more. And sometimes that's the right response, but I think if there isn't a lot of substance behind it and you don't give people really clear value props, it quickly can become noise. So just making sure that you're being very authentic and substantiated in when you're reaching out via email. Those would be the three things.
Yeah, no, and before I get to you, Jim, I just want to remind everyone, that we're going to take questions at the end. So if you do have a question for any of them, just make sure you raise your hand and Steve will unmute you or send you a request to unmute, because we really want to hear from you. Everyone wants to be, allow you guys to have a voice in the summit. Even though you can't be on stage like these guys, we want to hear what you have to say. So for Jim, I know that you really, as you talked about earlier, you really had to pivot in a lot of ways, but now you said you're a little bit more back to business as usual. Are you getting there? Tell me about that. Jim, you need
the mute button is an amazing feature.
It should have been
Sometimes it's
happened in our
overused.
phone call too.
But thank you. No, from 2 points, I'll really comment. Our marketing team has started to evolve back to a messaging to our customers about UPS's reliability, predictability, and agility. And those are our customers have responded positively in regards to that. But I'd say in terms of the long-term changes in a marketing organization that are here to stay are, one, to be more agile in our approach, and secondly, to strategic and tactical embracing of all things digital. The coronavirus pandemic challenged all of us to innovate faster, to remove obstacles, to adapt, to work together quickly, to develop our communications that make a meaningful impact on our customers and our people and our brand. And so I think we have to continue to retain those lessons in moving forward.
Yep, no, and it sounds like that's kind of a unified thought for all of you. So, well, Steve, do we have any questions for these guys?
We do. In fact, we have a question from one of our oldest buddies here, Neil Gogate from Mattel. Neil.
Cool.
Hey guys, love all the commentary and the feedback, and I think in particular, Kristie, you and I have shared panels before. I was thinking about what you said there, and there's been obviously a lot more interest in email. I think we're seeing that from lots of the industry reports, and with that has come a lot more interest and a lot more stakeholders, and that also has demanded more eyeballs when going through routings and review and approvals. So I was curious if you have worked out any sort of process where you've been able to sort of mitigate or keep things on track while also making sure that the 10 new eyeballs who previously had no interest in what you were doing are now also being accounted for.
Wow, that is, yes, that's completely the truth there. As you know from meeting me before, I pretty much am a team of one. Now I'm a team of about 20. So what we've looked at and what we've done is more or less picked out a representative from each group that's kind of my go or no go person kind of thing. So instead of waiting for 4 people to respond, one person responds and basically speaks for the group. They may go talk to the group individuals separately and get their opinions, but it all funnels through one person, so that instead of waiting for 20 to 25 responses, I'm waiting for about 4 or 5 responses kind of thing. And those 4 or 5 all speak within each other too. Any emails or anything that comes through, everyone is copied on. So everyone kind of has their chance, but at some point there has to be a drop dead time of no, we cannot make any more changes. And now that they understand, honestly, I think a lot of them felt like sending an email is similar to what they do every day at their desk or home or wherever they are. Hey Neil, can you meet with me at 4:30 today? Send, boom. It's easy. It's what's so hard about it. Now that they understand the process a little more, they're a little more respectful of, oh, now we get why you can't just change on the fly necessarily.
We have a question from the chat room from Walt Rowland. Have you used the COVID slowdown as an opportunity to think about retooling any aspects of your MarTech platform? And if so, what areas? For example, consolidated customer data platforms and the like. Have you used this? I've actually spoken to a number of brands who did use this period to reevaluate a lot of their tech.
I could say that I think we're always kind of doing that, but this is definitely given us a little bit of downtime here and there to take a closer look at it. And I think that work is still ongoing, honestly. We want to provide more customized content for our fans, not only on the website, but within emails as well. We want to make sure, to Jim's point, that this is a multi-channel, that everything's reflecting kind of the same messaging, that kind of thing. So it's ongoing with us.
And we've got a, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, on the Zillow side, this is work that we had already planned to tackle this year. And I would say, if anything, it has really accelerated the progress of that work and the importance of that work, especially as we noticed just how valuable being targeted and personalized can be in the way that people respond to a particular message, and that integration across channels, not just email, really understanding who the user is across all of the different touch points. That has really been, I think, just much more of a prioritized focus for us as a company and a marketing organization.
Yeah, and to answer the comment as well, we've focused heavily on data consolidation in recent years, actually, but I think several have said this, and you've heard that where it previously took years to make some changes in movement, we're seeing the same things happen in a matter of days now. And so certainly, like everyone else, a focus on data consolidation as aggressively took place with UPS.
That's it.